So I got to give a quick little shout out for a fella, or maybe I should say fellow YouTube subscriber of Jason M4, trying to get into the crypto game, trying to raise some cash so he can get in, get some money in there, play the game, get on an ICO maybe, make a couple bucks. But he's trying to get a little t-shirt thing on Amazon off the ground so he can earn a couple bucks to do so. So I said, I'll give you a little shout out. The shirts are about cryptocurrencies. So I'll link this to you, but in the description box. But take a look at this. And I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of this one. Magic Crypto Ball. Blue one, white, whatever, yellow. Magic Crypto Ball. For me, I don't know. It's not a bad looking shirt, but when I saw this one was better. I like this one a lot better. I have Crypto Fever. Got the little Bitcoin symbols in the background. Of course, you got black, red, well, brown, black, red, blue. That's one of my favorite colors, blue. And then we have like a grayish, I guess. So, hey, if you want to throw someone a bone, you can throw them a bone on Amazon. I will link these in the description box so that you can get one if you'd like. Let me see that shirt. Now, having said that, this is not the same person. Somebody else sent me this shirt, and I was like, who the hell sent me this? Who did this? Crypto millionaire in the making. I'm telling you right now, if I pull these ICOs off, and I ultimately make a bunch of good calls, luckily thanks to Cliff High and everything else, and just seem to win, lucky, like going and gambling in Vegas, win, you get super lucky. And I make $1 million on these things off of just, ultimately $15,000, $20,000. Like, what? I'm just thinking about that. It's a little crazy to think about because that may not happen, but damn it. This stuff is going crazy. So anyways, let's get on with the article. Wolf Richter. This is my people's down under. And I just got an email from somebody who was just talking to me. Hey, I'm a younger guy. Let me tell you a little bit about Australia, the housing and this and that. So this article is going to be right up his alley. Parents to pay the price when Australian housing bubble bursts. Home prices jump to new record amid surging supply and declining real wages. Where else have we heard this? Oh, pretty much every other Western country. Okay. The government, opposition, central bank, prudential regulator, also known as the FIRE sector, which is finance, insurance, and real estate industries, and their economists predictably deny the existence of a housing bubble. They firmly assert a severe downturn in the residential property market cannot and will not occur. Kind of reminds me of Janet Yellen recently. There will never be another downturn as far as she can see, which I sent myself another video to talk just about that because now it looks like the Fed is split 50-50. Some aren't buying her statement and some are, kind of a thing, but that's a different video. So when home prices sagged on a monthly basis in May, the fretting began. But now it is ascribed to a seasonal quirk because in June home prices jumped again. According to CoreLogic, in Sydney, home prices rose 12% in June, year over year, to, and this is Australian dollars, $880,000, with house prices rising up 13% and prices of condos, units as they're unceremoniously called down under, up 9%. On a monthly basis, they rose 2.2% from May. In Melbourne, home prices surged 14% year over year, with house prices up 15% and condo prices up 1.5%. More on that measly increase in a moment. Since January of 2009, home prices in Sydney have skyrocketed 111%. And in Melbourne, damn near close, 95%. For the 5 capital cities, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth, if I've pronounced that right, home prices rose nearly 10% in June year over year and are up 70% since '09. Home prices fell 1.7% year over year in Perth, which is impacted by the mining bust, and 7% in Darwin. I was thinking of Irwin, Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. Man, if there's one person, celebrity status, whatever, make it two. I got to pick two. Steve Irwin's one of them, if I could bring back from the dead. Man, I miss that guy. I miss the shows. Such a great show. And the second one, comedian George Carlin. Anyways, in Sydney and Melbourne are seeing rents rising at around 4 to 5% per annum. CoreLogic research director Tim Lawless told ABC News. So rents are rising 4 to 5% a year. Are your wages, just out of curiosity, are your wages rising 4 to 5%? How about your food costs, your energy costs? Are those rising at all? I bet they are. But what's the most expensive thing you're going to have to pay out of all of those? Rent, which is going to eat up all the discretionary spending, which is why there absolutely must be a housing bubble 2.0 burst. So we have Janet Yellen saying, well, we can rig the market so much, there'll never be another downturn again. So Janet, are you implying that housing prices are going to keep skyrocketing and become completely unaffordable? You're going to have to come to the conclusion that, you know what? We're going to have to let this baby go. We wanted to keep it going, but we can't have half the country homeless, so we're going to have to let it go. Which is why we always have these boom and bust cycles every time. Can always be brought back to the central bank who cause and effect. Nominal wages, not adjusted for inflation, are now experiencing record low growth. Speaking of wages, and real wages, adjusted for inflation, are declining. This chart by LF Economics shows those miserable trends in wage growth rates. Note the real wage growth. Let me just pull that up. Real wage growth, which is the red line, has now become a decline. And of course, the other one is definitely in decline anyways. Interesting, isn't it? This real wage problem arrives at a time of surging housing construction, particularly of condos. CoreLogic's Tim Lawless pointed out that these higher supply levels in the unit market appear to be creating a drag on the performance of the unit sector in specific segments. Hence, the measly increase in condo prices in Melbourne. Rising mortgage rates. Just when household debt levels have never been this high, Lawless warned, it suggests households are becoming much more sensitive to these rate rises. A crackdown by lenders on investors. Banks are now fretting over risks and record low rental yields in Sydney and Melbourne under pressure from regulators. They've raised rates for investors and are curtailing interest-only mortgages. We are likely to see further tightening and repricing around investment lending and interest-only lending over the coming months, Mr. Lawless said. That's kind of a cool last name. Can I just say that? Like, people look at you like you're a badass. Tim, or was it Tim? Tim Lawless? Was it? Lawless. Tim. Not little Timmy Geithner. Which sounds more badass to you? Hey, what's your name, buddy? Tim Geithner. Hey, what's your name, buddy? Tim Lawless. I'm a lawless MFer. Anyways. And there have been some wobbles in home prices over the past few months, including the month-over-month decline of 1.1% in May, with the 5 capital cities now largely brushed off as seasonality since the 1.7% rise in June. The price increases of 12% and 14% in Sydney and Melbourne in June are down from the year-over-year surges in March, which were 19% and 16%, respectively. And homes are sold via auctions, and the auction results in terms of clearance rates have deteriorated. In Sydney and Melbourne, clearances rates in March were still in the high 70% to low 80% range. In June, clearance rates in Melbourne were barely above 70%, and in Sydney, they dropped into the 60% range. Although growth conditions have lost momentum across the large housing markets, we are yet to see any signs of a material downturn, downturn law list said. The key drivers of this slowdown are gradual, he said, and they include housing affordability, which remains a significant barrier for many prospective buyers. The combination of record low wage growth and surging home prices has created a nightmare in terms of affordability. The home price to income ratio is one aspect of this affordability problem. For the country overall, the P&I ratio, or price to earnings, I guess, what is that? It has more than doubled over the past 20 years. From 1996, when the median home price was 4 times median income, to quarter one 2017, when the median home price hit 9 times income, as LF Economics point out in its new report on housing affordability. Which means what? The lenders, as I always say, cannot stop lending. We need new blood. We need new lending to go out. We've got to get these mortgages. We will do so at any cost. Everybody's approved. Yeah, but this is 9 times my earning. That's okay. Used to be 4 times. You're approved. Which is going to end how bad? Because nobody can afford it. Ultimately, they'll live there for a little while until their car breaks down and they have no extra money and the $1,000 they had saved up is gone. Right? 08 and 09 all over again. While the P&I to I ratio for most cities is in the mid to upper single digits, it has surged to 10 times for Melbourne and 13.7 times for Sydney. Declining mortgage rates have been credited for making everything possible. But now mortgage rates are unlikely to fall further, and there are pressures for mortgage rates to head the other way. The P&I ratio also ignores a number of other factors, such as high transportation costs, as people are pushed further out into the suburbs and have to commute longer to work because they can't afford the houses closer to their job. Which means gas price, maintenance, vehicle goes up. The costs do. Then there's the problem of down payments, which are increasingly difficult to scrape together for first-time homebuyers who are hobbled by low wage increases and high cost of living, such as the surging rents. So what options do first-time homebuyers have? Their parents, with consequences for their parents. And according to LF Economics, many first homebuyers, or FHBs, are dependent on their parents for financial assistance for deposits, mortgage payments, co-buying, and using the family home as collateral or guarantees. This fast-tracks ownership for the children of the more affluent regardless of their ability to meet mortgage repayments over the long term. These forms of parental assistance allow some FHBs to enter the market dangerously over-leveraged with minimal equity and savings. The parents' financial future is at risk should their children experience difficulties, and they will, meeting mortgage payments, let alone defaulting and suffering a foreclosure. Buy property in Sydney and you're pretty well set for life. Government to first homebuyers. Read, housing bubble in Sydney soars to new high. Politicians promote scheme to bitter end. They have a link for that, of course, at Wolf Street. I'll put this whole video up there. Again, quick, look surprised. Quick, look surprised. This cannot end well. This is exactly why everything else, retail and everything else, is sucking. Because people do not have extra money when it is being dumped into a freaking home, whether it's rent or mortgage. I keep saying this over and over. Because it's true. It's the reason, it's the cause. The cause, Federal Reserve, and their central banks in Australia, or central bank in Australia, and every other country that has a central bank, and they all gather around in a nice big circle jerk and tell everybody how great of a job they're doing while pricing everybody out of a freaking house. A house is like literally a God-given right kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, you have the right to live under a freaking roof and not have to pay somebody or rent or whatever through the nose and not be able to experience hardly anything else in life because you can't afford to do anything. So in case, since I can't, and I'm human, and like my mom would say, I refuse to live in poverty, I want to go to the movies today. I've had enough. I've got to get out of the house. I want to go somewhere and spend some money. I've got to put it on the credit card. Put it on the credit card. Which is why we have the highest credit debt since a very long time ago these days. Another thing that's not going to end well. And then we have the student loan debt at 1.3 or 1.4 now? Trillion. Hasn't been paid back. That's what's outstanding. And the federal government, and I'm talking America now, and our government, because those are all government backed, right? Those loans, they don't make good on them. The government ultimately is on the hook, right? The government puts student loan debt as a positive asset on the books. That's like you and me putting our way high multiple credit cards maxed out on our books. Oh, you want to buy a house? Yeah. Let me show you my 3 credit cards. I've got all maxed out, 12,000, 16,000, and 15,000. That's an asset. That's an asset, by the way, Mr. Underwriter for the mortgage. Those are assets. No, you owe that credit card debt, right? Correct. Those are assets. Could you imagine doing such a thing, right? It would never fly for you or I. Only the government can get away with that crap. You and I do it. Oh, they scammed, committed fraud. He's going to lock them up, Not that you could really get in trouble for having 3 credit cards and trying to convince the mortgage lender that that's an asset. They look at you like some kind of moron. But anyways, housing problems in Canada, housing problems in America as far as high prices, housing problems in Australia, and in the European Union, many countries over there. Jiminy Christmas. Take care.